Hi, and welcome to this sermon study video for the sermon I'm preaching on August 14th. Beloved community. We're kicking off our capital campaign, and I thought for a good icebreaker, you could ask the people in your group a few questions to see who has been paying attention to the literature that we've mailed out to everybody and who has blown it off up to this point. That's really what the capital campaign is all about. It's making sure our congregation knows the details of where we are so they can prayerfully be led to make a decision about their own contribution to the capital campaign, the building campaign. So, here are a few questions to ask. How many weeks will our capital campaign last? That was pretty easy. And now a little bit harder. How much does our church still owe? What's the debt on our building addition that we built? Okay, got that one? A little harder even then. If we keep giving at the same rate that we've been giving the last few years, how long will it take us to pay off the remainder of our debt? And now, if you get all of those, the really hard one, what is the interest rate that we are paying to the bank for our building debt? If you know that, you are completely informed, or you're a member of the finance committee, one or the other. So, the sermon itself. Before we talk about the Acts 2 passage, I wanted to ask those of you in the group, what comes to mind when you hear the word fellowship? What are the images, the thoughts? And especially since we're in a church context, that might color how you respond to that. So let me ask this. If you're thinking about the context of being out with a group of friends, going out for dinner, everybody going to somebody's house for that's in your neighborhood, how does that context change how you might imagine fellowship? What's fellowship look like in that situation? Okay. Our passage for this Sunday is the same passage we've been studying throughout this small group conversation from Acts chapter 2. And for this sermon, what I focused on was they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Fellowship. Fellowship is a gift that sometimes we don't appreciate until it's taken away from us. And in the church's context, it's a sacred thing. It's what binds us together. So I wanted you to just reflect for a little while. What happens when you fellowship with someone? What happens to us as a group when we spend time fellowshipping? What happens to the relationships when we of people in the room? And you can use your own small group, for example. If you ever do something outside the context of studying together, how does that change the dynamics of who you are as a small group? Is it possible to do things like talk together and eat together and laugh together and it not affect who you are? Or better, maybe to reverse that, is it possible for the church to be the kind of caring community we're called to be and not do some of that fellowship time together? Now, another one of the scriptures that we focus on for this sermon is 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 5 through 17. I'd encourage you to read that because we're talking about Holy Communion. How Holy Communion connects us. It's not only communion with God, but it's communion with one another. That's at least what it's supposed to be. Discuss as a group, when you've experienced communion or Eucharist or the Lord's Supper, however you have referred to it in the worship settings you've been in, what's been your experience in those settings? Are you more focused on the God connection or on the sharing a meal connection? What might help us, whatever the answer is, if we know that in one sense communion is supposed to do both of those, accomplish both of those things, align me with God as well as with the other people in the room. What are some of the things that we as a church could do that would help you bridge that connection in both of those dimensions? Well, I hope you have a great conversation about fellowship and what's it mean to commune together, to connect together. God bless you.